good evening and welcome to this week's edition of Questions and Answers. We've no politicians with us tonight, no TDs anyway, or senators or MPs or MEPs, though we've some who have tried and failed in national elections. Our panellists, however, do hold very strong and differing political views. Laura O'Sumurricu is Director General of Comhaltas Ceoltóirí Éireann, which was founded in 1951 to promote Irish traditional music, song, dance and language. Some fault him as a purist when it comes to traditional music. Others suggest that he should concentrate his energies exclusively in the cultural field and stay out of wider political controversies. But he disagrees. He has campaigned for the H-Block prisoners, for the pro-life amendment, against the extradition of Father Paddy Ryan, for a statue of Padraig Pearse in Dublin's O'Connell Street. He once accused the Arts Council of joining the begrudgers and belittlers of Comhaltas and described as racist their policy towards his organisation. He joined Fianna Fáil 2 years ago. He's been an independent member of Cashel Urban District Council for 18 years.
Does the panel agree that a number of firms use Telethon to promote a better public image for themselves by being seen to make a donation, while at the same time these same firms pay low wages and they let staff go?
So was Telethon used by some firms to better their public image even when their own record is not that good? Laura O'Sumurricu, your organisation was involved to some extent. What's your view?
Well, I think it should have happened, yes, certainly. I think it would be very wrong at any time, any movement, no matter how small, that takes place in Ireland in order to alleviate poverty, alleviate distress, and to help those who are less well off, I think has to be praised in itself. Yes, taking the question direct, I've no doubt in my mind that some of those firms who participated were glad of the exposure from a business point of view. But I think we have to get on to a much more detailed analysis of what poverty is about in Ireland. And my belief is that what happened in Telethon is merely a cosmetic exercise. And I would be very much afraid that having done their bit for 24 hours, a lot of these people will fade back into the woodwork again and forget about the actual difficulties which people are experiencing. Most of us here have no idea of the poverty which exists in Ireland. And I think the blame lies with most of us, not just with the government, but with ourselves as well. I think the first thing we have to say is, are we prepared to bring about radical change in Ireland to ensure that people will not have to use a begging bowl, whether it's a telethon, whether it's the dole situation, or whatever other method they have to go to find sustenance in order to exist. Now, what would this mean? It would mean, in effect, that you would have to say that, first of all, in your income tax, that you are prepared to pay 5 or 10% more to ensure those people who are less well off than yourself will have dignity, will have a share in the country of which they are citizens. But we tend to talk about poverty as if it is a disease, that we'll tackle it every so often, we'll look at the symptoms, etc., whereas in actual fact, these people are suffering because of the very system which exists in this country.
Right.
And that has to be tackled in a radical manner.
Right. Yes.
Does the panel agree with statements made by Deputy Michael Bell on RT today that the continued bombing of the North-South rail link has more to do with smuggling than nationalism?
I don't see what it has to do with nationalism either, because in fairness, unless there's a flow of people between the north and the south, and unless we know each other and can work together, as many organisations are trying to do and many businesses trying to do, I don't see how you can even talk about a united Ireland. Now, as regards smuggling, Deputy Bell isn't the first person to have floated this idea. I think Deputy McGahan also did, and so did the trade unions. And I think what you were saying is correct. It's a bit far-fetched to me. It sounds like too much of a grandiose plan to be able to close down the rail, drive the traffic onto the roads, and therefore they can smuggle all the easier. What I would be afraid of and these type of statements, and you tend to get it after every incident and every atrocity in the north of Ireland. You have somebody coming out floating something that's good for a headline or for publicity, and what comes out of that at the end of the day is confusion. And you get so much confusion, people repeating these statements, then having them accepted, and then when you come back looking for a solution to this, you don't even know where to start. I'd have my doubts on the smuggling.
Phil Caulfield has another topic entirely. Yes.
I would like to ask the panel, is the Abbey Theatre sick? Or why has there been such a turnover of artistic directors in the last 5 years? Can it be purely lack of funds?
Laura O'Sumurricu.
Well, obviously Hugh Leonard would have the inside track and would understand, and I could only speak as one perhaps who would have a public perception of it. And I always felt the public perception of the Abbey was one of admiration and one of gratitude over the years for the good work they had done. And establishing a theatrical tradition here when it wasn't here in the early part of the century. Now, it's quite obvious that growing out of that, other theatres have come along. Many playwrights have been promoted and cultivated, etc. And now a comparison situation is arising between the more successful ones, if you like, and the Abbey, who already have a track record established. I think, yes, you'd have to come back to funds in regard to this. Even though you talk in terms of £400,000, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money when you consider the poverty question which we were discussing here tonight, but they're not necessarily mutually exclusive. You have to promote art, you have to promote entertainment, there are jobs involved, talent involved, etc. And I think that the likes of the Abbey Theatre are certainly underfunded, and that would require consideration. On the managerial aspect or the executive aspect, I'd have to bow to Hugh Leonard's comments in regard to that.